On this episode of Locked On Angels, you'll never guess who the hero of the weekend was. It wasn't Nolan Shonawell. It wasn't Zach Neto. It wasn't Logan O'Hoppe. It was Jack Kochanowicz. How about that guy? We'll talk about his start and the entire weekend against the Nationals. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is, and yes, we are. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's really one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at SupplyHouse. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts really fast. Shop for your next plumbing, h-vac, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Fresh Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our third season here at Locked On Angels. We're talking Angels baseball every Monday through Friday with you every single weekday. On today's show, we're going to recap that weekend series against the Nationals. They got walked off twice, Mike, two times. And it's all because of Rob Manfred and this Ghost Runner rule. But hey, listen, they were able to salvage the series. We'll talk about how that happened. But let's get into Friday's game. It was a loss between the Angels and the Nationals. The Angels lost that one 3-2.
Yeah, Jose Soriano started this game, Johnny. He gave up a run in the first inning, but it was on a play that should have ended the inning. Runners at first and third. Soriano got an easy double play ground ball to Stefanik at second base, and he throws to Neto kind of off balance, kind of in a hurry. Neto went to grab it and was, I think, on the exchange, was trying to move quickly, and the ball went right by him, and so they weren't able to turn the double play, and a runner did score. So not a great start for the Halos, but it was one of those situations where Soriano did what he was supposed to do. The defense just didn't come through for him.
Yeah, let me remind me to get back to that Neto error, because I know that Neto did have some struggles this weekend.
He did.
And I have a theory about some of that, so please remind me to get back to that. The Angels did respond, though, in the top of the second. With a runner on, Jo Adell hits his 17th home run of the season, 431 feet, gave the Halos the lead, and this is on the first pitch with two outs coming through, runners in scoring position, and a two-out home run. It was the only offense the Angels were able to get across the plate, but Mike, there was a question Friday, I think. It was like, how long can you watch Jo Adell bat 190 and do what he's doing? And I'm saying, look, this season, they're not going anywhere. I will watch it all season long. In fact, he's had a really great recovery over the last few weeks and put himself together a nice little hit streak as well. So his average is climbing, 17th home run of the season. I think that now that he's gone to the toe tap as opposed to the big leg kick, it's shortened up his swing, which is what we were, pounding our chests about, like, shorten up that swing, get back to what you were doing. So it took a little longer for him to find it again, but it has been nice to see him come around and do well again, and I hope that sticks for the rest of the season for Jo Adell.
I think he's going to be the type of hitter that is going to have hot and cold streaks. As he's developing, he's going to have hot and cold streaks, and they'll probably, as he gets older and maybe more mature, they'll be few and far between. But he is the type of hitter that it's all or nothing. And if you look at like Kyle Schwarber with the Phillies, right? That guy has had some really hot streaks and then some really ice cold streaks. And he's somebody that they rely upon at the top of that lineup in Philadelphia. And I think that in some ways, Jo Adell will be that type of hitter. He'll have a run where he hits over 400 and his slugging percentages over 700, right? And then he'll have some runs where he's way below 200 and his OPS is like 350, right? And so he's going to have those moments. And that's where this season is one of those seasons where you can give him that opportunity. If you're competing, then I think the question about Jo Adell and being someone who's struggling in the lineup is a legitimate conversation. But I do think that there's even a caveat to that, Johnny, because Joe Adell is going to hit you a bomb with 2 outs in a game like this when you least expect it. And so he's the type of guy that you keep giving him chances, and I think he's going to come through for you, and you're going to look like a genius because you stuck with him.
I'd like to see more consistency for the rest of this season from the middle of August to the end of September. And, like we've said, let's evaluate at the end of the season all these guys.
Yeah.
We'll evaluate where they're at after they've had a full season, no excuses, and I think that's a good place to be at the end of the season. Speaking of of improvements and excitement and surprises, Jose Soriano's 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts on 88 pitches. Mike, if the Angels were to run with an in-house starting rotation, let's say Tyler Anderson got moved over the offseason, does he take that spot at number 1 if it was purely an in-house rotation?
Out of just purely skill, yes, absolutely. And what he's put together over the last real, 4 or 5 starts, and even this season, but the last 4 or 5 starts, has been somebody who is adjusting, and he's doing what is necessary to be the leader of this starting rotation. And the guy's going out there and regularly putting in 6 innings and 7 innings, and it's effective innings, John. It's quality starts. I mean, this game, that run shouldn't even have been counted against him because of the error. So I'm very impressed with Soriano. It's a difficult conversation. Again, there's layers to it because it feels like the Angels are going to kind of run with their guys, and I don't know what they'll do in the offseason. And if they will sign anybody, the likelihood of them signing anybody is probably slim to none.
Yeah.
And so you think about who they might bring up into this starting rotation. Let's say Detmers comes back, and then you have somebody like a Caden Dana, Silseth, right? Sam Bachman. Soriano's the best out of all of those guys. And so to have him be your opening day starter and to have him be every 5th day, the guy that can end the losing streak or continue a winning streak, I'm super confident in that. And I think he's got to be the guy. I think he's earning it, not earned, but I think he's earning it so far this season.
Yeah. 88 pitches, 6 innings pitched. He's the type of guy who probably could have done the 7th inning, but it's his first full season as a starter. I worry about the previous Tommy John surgeries. I worry about the fact that he throws pretty hard when he wants to. So I appreciate that they are doing everything they can, especially in a season like this, where you can kind of save that arm a little bit. They couldn't hold the lead for him, unfortunately, Mike. Bottom of the 8th, Jose Quijada came in, gave up the tying run. Then in the 10th inning, Ben Joyce gave up the winning run. Obviously, Ghost Runner was a part of that situation. But the Angels bullpen's been the very best bullpen since June 17th. But that night they were not able to hold the lead on Friday. So the Halos lose 3-2. And a big issue why was the offense. The fact that Joe Adell was the only one to get some runs across. Shawnoel, Neto, and Ohapi went 0 for 15.
Ouch.
Ohapi is in a big slump. They were 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position. And the only home run was that Joe Adell home run. Or I should say the 2 runs that scored was the Joe Adell home run. What does that game? What does this kind of game teach these young players when they're not able to come through like that? What do they take away from something like this?
Did you see Ron Washington talking, I think before Saturday's game, to Erica Weston on the TV side? He talked about Logan Ohapi hitting 3rd, and he said, the guy's got to figure that out. He's got to figure out, because that's who he's going to be in the future. And so why not figure it out now? And he said he's going to get opportunities to do that. And if he doesn't come through, then later on, I'm going to pull those opportunities from him. But it sounds like they're running with him as the 3rd hitter in this lineup, like they're running with Joe Adell in the outfield and batting 8th or 9th, 7th sometimes, and not pulling him. So they don't have to worry about that. I know that Logan's not worried about getting pulled. I understand that. But I think that what Wash said is what these guys need to learn and what a game like this teaches them. You gotta like not hold the bat so tight, Logan. You gotta relax in those moments. You're the 3rd hitter in this starting lineup, and you got a hot hitter in front of you. You got to make contact. You can't strike out as much as you're striking out. I think that those are the things that are going through their head. And I think that they're being taught these things. I also think they don't need to be taught these things, John. I think they're aware of these things. And it's just experience, and it's that evaluated experience that helps them to be better baseball players. And so I love that Wash is like, figure it out, bro. This is where you're going to be in the future. And this team specifically is going to need you to be that guy. So it's time to figure that out. I'm not going to pull you. So let's get some hits and let's come through.
There's two things I want to get to here. And the first is the fact that Neto didn't look free and easy this weekend as he normally does. And he definitely had some fantastic plays. He had some on Sunday morning, and so that's not to take anything away from him. But to me, it just seemed like what you said was true. Logan O'Hoppe is holding the bat too tight. Like, it's not actually what we're saying. What we're saying is these guys are just kind of,
they're tight, they're
clinched up, tight and tense. Yeah. And how do you go?
It's like a junior high dance.
Once again, they go and they beat the Mets, who are in the playoff race. They beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. And then they play down to a Nationals team that isn't going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. The Angels played down to the Rockies, Mike. They played down to the A's several times. And so it boggles my mind. You and I have had this discussion all the way back to Super Halo Bros, our first podcast. And that is, the Angels always find a way to play up to the tough teams where they'll show up and they'll beat the Yankees 2 out of 3, or, they'll beat the Dodgers and surprise everybody. And when they, everybody expects to steamroll over them, and that's just doesn't happen. But then they go and play the Nationals and the A's and the Rockies and give up 2 out of 3. They can't win these games. And so to me, it was just a matter. I mean, even I know we'll talk about Ben Joyce in segment 3, but even Ben Joyce seemed off, and everybody seems a little bit off. And so I don't know what it is about this team playing down to, I shouldn't say lesser teams, because the Nationals are certainly doing fairly well for what they are. That Alex Call, man, is going to be something special.
Yeah.
Pick him up if you're making a playoff run in your fantasy league, which is what I plan to do. But everything seems to kind of go out the window when they play down to these teams. They play their game. They don't play up. They play down. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's something that we want to maybe dive into a bit deeper, because I think that's a further conversation. There's something happening mentality wise. There's something happening perspective wise, but there's also something happening stat wise with this team. And so you're right. And that's been the history of this team for so long. It's why we've loved this team, but also hated this team, because when they were good in the late 2000s, they were that type of team that they would have these great disappointments against teams that they should beat, but then they would go in and just wipe the slate clean with really strong teams. Like when they would play Oakland, it was like, man, Oakland's going to be tough, and they've got this team coming in, and they've won all these games, and it's Eric Chavez and all these guys, and then they would suddenly walk out of there with like a 3-game sweep, and you're like, well, this is great. And then they would play, at the time, they would play like the Royals, who were terrible, and they'd get 2 out of 3 like taken from them. And so that's super frustrating. I think that a part of that is maturity. There's a lot more to that. So why don't we spend some time on that on tomorrow's show?
I like that. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Blue Jays back at home, 6:38 Pacific time. I think they needed to come home. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I know they head out again shortly after the Braves series, but it's good to have them home this week. Catch every pitch of the Angels Hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, how did Jack Kochanowicz save the weekend for the Halos? We'll tell you what he did coming right up.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by SupplyHouse. You can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades at SupplyHouse.com. It's the most reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. And they got an easy-to-use website packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. You can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands. And when you do, you get your parts ordered right to your door with fast shipping coast to coast. And if you need some help, they've got expert industry-leading service people, super friendly in the business. They're going to help you. John's on the phone right now, talking to them. You'll get one of those old commercials that is I'm narrating and then you're talking. We're doing a great job. We're back in the 90s now, bro. This is great.
That's right.
Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. You can join thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/ TM, and you can order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Every day is when you're done here at Locked On Angels. Head on over to Locked On MLB. Get a wide range of coverage with our pal Sully over on Locked On MLB. Get you ready for playoff races. Get you ready for the World Series. It's going to be here before you know it. It's going to happen quickly, and I'm looking forward to it because that means the weather is going to be a lot cooler here in Southern California. So check it out. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Speaking of your team, the Angels are playing the Blue Jays tonight, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels.
Johnny, on Saturday, it was another walk-off. The Nationals came back in this one. That's the one thing that we've learned about them this weekend is half of their wins have been come from behind victories. And they're like gnats, right? Like you're swatting because they just don't seem to go away. And that's exactly what happened with this team.
I hate that I love that so much. Well done. Well done.
So the Halos got on the board first in the top of the second, loaded the bases, and then Brandon Drury, John, decided to play baseball, and he hit a sacrifice fly. It was good to see him do something. Any offense from him, I think, is a benefit. And then the Nationals got to run back in the bottom of the second. James Wood, who looked like Barry Bonds when he was swinging that bat, hit a home run off of Griffin Canning, John.
He's on my fantasy team too, by the way. I picked him up like weeks before he got called up, and it just stashed him. And
he looks like
he's a stud.
He looks like he's 12, but he's swinging the bat like he's just a veteran out there. Johnny, here's some good news for Griffin Canning. This was a really good start, and he had a clean first inning, but then he gave up a home run in the second inning. Now, here's what's really interesting about him. First two innings, ERA over 7. From the third inning on, ERA's hovering at about 3. So I think eye test and experience, and as we watch Griffin Canning this year, we would all go, yeah, that makes sense, because
right.
that's what it's felt like, right?
Well, the problem with that is that, usually they say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Well, that doesn't help you when you're a starting pitcher.
Right.
That's not what you want. But
Canning's like, it's how I finish, man. Look, I'll give up 5 runs and then I'll crush it for the rest of the game.
Let's come back to Canning, because
he
did something really interesting in this game that's worth discussing. So at this point, the Nats added another run in the third inning that gave them a 1-run lead, but the Angels got it right back in the fourth inning. Back-to-back singles by Ward and Rendon. Mike, everybody made the joke, the low-hanging fruit of, hey, welcome back, Rendon. Nationals, do you want to keep him here? Do you guys want him to stay? And what's funny is that he performed well across the 2 games that he played in. And so it's like, maybe they just need Nationals Park Rendon, like maybe he just needs to play there more often on behalf of the Angels, because maybe that's the key to his success, because he had a pretty good weekend. Adele moved Ward to third on a fly out to right. Then Drury singled and Ward scored to tie the game. Top of the 5th, Zach Neto gives the Halos the lead with his 17th homer of the season, 405 to straight center field. Did you see where that pitch was, Mike?
Yeah.
Down and away.
Yeah.
Far and away.
Very Mike Trout-esque, right? Like it was low, and he crushed that pitch.
How did you get a hold of that one? And Matty V said his 11th of the year.
Yeah.
And then admitted he needed...
Why did he say 11th?
he admitted he needed his readers after that one. Couldn't read his own handwriting, but O'Hoppe followed that up with a walk. Kevin Pillar doubles to right center. O'Hoppe scores. Patrick Corbin comes out of the game at that point. This is a funny question. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, is this an Angels move at 35 years old to get Patrick Corbin, Mike? He was part of the Angels organization at one time. So what do you say?
He's an innings eater, and who knows what the Angels will do, right? And I think that we need to move in the direction of helping this team to improve. And so if this is a signing that does, then maybe we need to consider it. But the truth is that I think they've got some young guys that maybe could make this team a whole lot better. But if the Angels don't feel like they're ready, they might need another year where there's a stopgap, because we keep talking about how 2026 is the potential for, okay, they might be somebody that could make some noise, but I just don't think that that's who they'll be next year. I'd love to be wrong, and please surprise me, Angels, right? But with this guy, 35, lefty. He eats up innings. He could be a Tyler Anderson-esque type of pitcher for the Halos. I just don't think he's going to be somebody that is going to help us like get pushed over the competitive line.
Yeah, his stuff is just not what it used to be, and he's been struggling for years. But
he's led the league in losses the last 4 years, and I know wins and losses are kind of an anomaly sometimes, but I mean, he's been in there to get a decision, which is what you want from a pitcher. Unfortunately, the decision has been you lost.
lost.
Yeah.
Lost. Now, that brings up another excellent point. I think if the Angels had an off season that every fan would want, where it's like, you get an ace, you get a Corbin Burns. How about less Patrick Corbin and more Corbin Burns, right? And then you add a couple of impact bats, or you get whatever you need. I think between what they have now and if they did everything right, they could be competitive next year. But I don't see it happening. And that's the problem, is that there's always a dip your toe in the water. Oh, we'll kind of go for it. We'll do this. We'll do that. But I just don't see it happening next year. But I also see them really getting somewhere by the time 2026 rolls around.
I just had a stupid thought. I mean, it would be totally an Angels move, right? Like Perry Manassian is meeting with Corbin Burns to negotiate a contract because Artie said, yeah, go get that Corbin guy. And then Artie's like, I'm going to help out. But he calls Patrick Corbin instead. And he's like, right? I mean, wouldn't that be just like a total Angels move where he's like, we signed Patrick Corbin. I got him for you, Perry.
Yeah.
That's not that was the wrong Corbin.
He was in the Angels system. He's an Angels legend.
Yes. And he was cheap. He wanted the league minimum. So we got him for the league minimum.
I really want to talk about Griffin Canning in this one. He allowed the game to be tied in the 7th inning on 2 singles and a double. But Mike, he went the full 7 innings. He gave up 8 hits, 4 earned runs. Here's the story: 0 walks, 0 strikeouts, 88 pitches. Now, if you were to look at that line, you might think, boy, another Griffin Canning start. But going the full 7 innings, it was a different Griffin Canning out there. And the real story is the no walks and no Ks. Mike, he was getting ground ball outs. He was getting lazy fly outs. It was a different Griffin Canning because he likes to strike people out. He likes to get swings and misses. But this is the longest outing for Canning since June 24th against Oakland.
Yeah.
And other than that last inning, like, he was able to go deep into this game, pitch really well, have efficient, quick innings. And it's what we go back to all the time: pitch efficiency.
Yeah.
And him generating outs more quickly than the amount of pitches he usually throws in a short amount of time. That's why he had the success that he did. It's a shame that, maybe he went a little too long and surrendered the lead there. But at the end of the day, this was whether it was, win or loss, this was a different kind of Griffin Canning. Is it something you'd like to see out of him more? Or do you think that he ought to be the guy that he's been and try to get some strikeouts, try to do this, try to do that? What do you say?
I like a Griffin Canning that goes 7 innings, John, and I like a Griffin Canning that gets a lot of ground balls. He was a very different pitcher. I wonder if that was the game plan. And I'm going to give credit to Barry Enright. I think he's really done a good job with this starting rotation. I know that there are some knocks against him with like Reed Detmer's not doing well and some other stories, but John, he's really taken a makeshift bullpen and a makeshift starting rotation, and he's helped them to know how to be competitive. And this Griffin Canning felt very Greg Maddux-esque because he was pitching to contact, 88 pitches by the end of the 7th inning. If he pitches like this is the type of pitcher that we need. I love swings and misses. I love strikeouts, all of that stuff. I think that the only tension then, if he pitches this way, is when you get into some of those runners in scoring position situations like he did in the 7th inning. He was only getting ground balls and flyouts, and so they're going to be able to move runners over. There isn't swings and misses, so you're not getting what you hope for in that moment. But if he can get to the 6th inning, through the 6th inning with this type of efficiency, I would love to see him continue to develop that.
I would love to dive into that a little bit more. So we talked about, playing up, playing down, a later conversation. Put this in your notes. Griffin Canning, pitching style. Should he change it? Why should he change it? I'm going to do a little deep dive.
Let's do it
on that. I love that. Hey, so Strickland came in for the 8th, had the go ahead runner on 3rd with less than 2 outs, and he got the next 2 batters to end the inning. third straight game for Strickland out of the bullpen. So
Yeah.
credit to him for that one. The game went into extra innings for the second straight night. Unfortunately, Ronci Contreras, who's been good at the end of the bullpen, gave up the winning run on a single. There was a ball that got away right away, first pitch.
Yeah.
And then that single was all it took for the Nationals to walk it off. So the second night in a row, the Nationals walked it off. Unfortunate for Griffin Canning, and it settled a Angels series loss on Saturday night.
This episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Ibotta. It's a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to even toys. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover an entire shopping trip, maybe buy a cheap flight that you've been eyeing, go to a game that you've been dying to go to, or maybe a really fancy dinner with the one that you love. Other apps just give you points that don't amount to too much. With Ibotta, you just add your offers to the app, you upload your receipt, and you get real cash that gets sent to your bank account, your PayPal account, or maybe you can even get it in a gift card. You can join over 50 million savers. You could be 50 million and one and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners to Locked On Angels $5 just for trying the app. All you do is when you sign up, you just put in Locked On MLB when you register. Go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app. You can start earning cash back right now and use our promo code Locked On MLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play Store or App Store, and use our promo code Locked On MLB.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's the best way to stay engaged with sports all summer long. All you got to do is open the app and dream up any bets at any time you're in the mood. In fact, we got some football back already. We've got preseason football, so get in on that while you can. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. So there's something for everybody there every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
The Halos pulled out a victory on Sunday, which was nice to see. They salvaged the series.
Did they play on Sunday? I didn't even.
Goodness, yeah, it was already over by the time we woke up. Right, it felt like it was so early. They won this game 6-4. The story, Johnny, was Kochanowicz, Jack Kochanowicz.
Yeah,
7 2/3, 2 earned, 6 hits, 2 Ks, 93 pitches. What a great response to somebody who was sent down, struggled when he was up here, then came back up, kind of filled in because they had the doubleheader and the rotation kind of got funky and a little wonky. When he went down, he worked on location, worked on some of his mechanics because he's, I think 9 foot tall. And so you have to really watch your body and your arms, right? And it showed in this game. In fact, I loved this stat. The sinker was up to, it produced 98, a mile an hour sinker. I'll get this right. A 98 mile an hour sinker, and it produced 13 ground ball outs. And he threw 4 innings where he pitched less than 10 pitches or less and really saved this Angel bullpen. So Jack Kochanowicz was the hero of the weekend for the Halos, coming into this game and helping the Angels to get a victory. And good on him. Showed a lot of baseball maturity, going to the minors and then coming back up in a spot start. So really proud of that guy. It was great to see him be successful on Sunday.
They really wanted to get him through that 8th inning and just the 2 earned runs that he gave up. That was the nail in the coffin there. But shout out to him, man. 93 pitches. Again, Mike, pitch efficiency. He figured out what he wanted to do. In fact, did you catch any of Kai Busch's debut with the White Sox? So one thing that I noticed, and this seems to be kind of a theme with the Angels, or at least Angels pitching that comes up to the majors, right out of the gate, very nervous, didn't locate very well against the A's. It was Kai Busch, now with the White Sox, pitching against the A's, struggled to find the zone, and it looked a lot like what Kochanowicz had been doing in those first few starts that he got. Okay. And so I found it funny, guys going from AA to the majors, getting their first starts, getting their first go around. And it always seems to be location, location, location. Just they know what they want to do, but they're just unable to hit where they want it to hit. And this was a very different Kochanowicz in the way that he came up and put the sinker where he wanted it to, pitched effectively all the way through. Again, I love myself some pitch efficiency to almost get through 8 innings on 93 pitches. That's old school, baby.
Yeah.
That's what you want. And
love that.
And even getting 2 Ks along the way. I mean, good grief, man. I love the way that he was able to operate in this one. Sounds like he came back and this is what he had in mind in those first few starts.
Yes.
Just wasn't able to put it together and physically do it. And he was able to do that in this one.
Yeah, he said that after his very first major league start. He was like, yeah, I know what I need to work on. I know what I need to do. And so he just wasn't able to see the effectiveness of that. And so this game was a game where he was able to be effective. Angels were effective offensively. Finally, they got on the board in the 4th inning. Kevin Pillar capped it off with a 3-run double, and he reached third base. John, they added another run in the 7th inning. This was the epitome of the nickel and dime that you and I talk about, right?
Yeah.
Scoring on ground outs, and they scored on a double play. They scored on sacrifice flies, and then they had a big hit like Kevin Pillar. It's exactly what you need when you have a team like this. Now, Halos did get in some trouble in the 9th inning. Joyce came in, and he struggled. 3 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, but he got out of it. Didn't get the save because you can't pitch yourself into a save, which is, I think they should change that. But he did get out of that. Now,
yeah, but Joyce, you could pitch yourself into a win, which is ridiculous. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now, Joyce, he's been clean. He's been dominant. And then this game happened, right?
Yeah.
Learning moment for him, right? As the closer, as the guy at the end of the bullpen, this is a learning, growing moment, is it not?
This is like what I was talking about with Zach Neto earlier. It just felt like everybody played a little more tightly. One thing I will say is there were a few pitches there that Joyce just did not get the call on.
And all weekend long, it was kind of wonky. That strike zone was a bit funky, right?
Yeah. And so, wonky and funky. Exactly.
Technical terms.
And so that's the thing is when things don't go your way, I think that a guy like Joyce can tend to lose it a little bit or let that get to him. And not that it wouldn't get to anybody, but I think that is, if you want to take this back to a learning moment, I think what can be learned here is the fact that, hey, when things don't go your way, you can't let it get to you and you can't let it get away from you. Now, I'm glad that he was able to get through it. They certainly had the cushion to be able to do that. But Mike, I went back and looked at the matchups on StatCast, and I didn't see a Ben Joyce that stuck to his game plan, which is throw that sinker down. And when they're waiting for it, you throw that fastball up and above the zone and they try to swing through it. Or I should say they do swing through it. They try to hit it. They swing right through it. Didn't see that game plan. In fact, some of the hits that he gave up were sinkers that anybody could really hit. Well, I should say splinker, right?
Yeah.
But they were right down the middle. They were right, in the path of the bat. And just he just didn't have his game plan going in this one. I could understand the other game where he gave up the walk-off on Friday. Manfred rules, extra innings. Sure. Maybe if it was a different situation with nobody on base, maybe somebody gets on base, somebody gets a base hit, he still gets out of it. This one just didn't seem like he was sticking to his game plan.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing that happened to him and kind of a lot of the young guys this weekend. That's not to say that Moniak didn't have a great day. Shawnuel had 3 walks. Matt Theis, 2 for 2 with 3 walks. Theis is all of a sudden figuring it out behind at the dish. So really interesting stuff in this one. So the much better offense on Sunday. Mike, I like this question you left for me. If Christian Moore comes up, is Drury the odd man out? I say yes.
Yeah, he'd be for me as well. I think Christian Moore has proven himself. Double A is a pitcher's league, and the guy's hitting a ton in a pitcher's league. And so he should come up as soon as he possibly can. 16th of August is kind of the date everybody's looking at. I think he should be our second baseman, and I think you should run with him and see what he's got on this major league roster. Yeah,
no rookie eligibility status changes after that date. So anybody asking about, don't start his clock, don't do it.
Yeah.
No, it won't be affected if he comes up after this weekend.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, check out our friend Sully's show on the Locked On MLB Podcast Network. He is Locked On MLB, has all the great stuff, make you laugh, make you cry. He's fantastic. You'll love listening to his show. A lot of good information. Talks about the entire league. And his show is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros, of course. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
I love a show where we plan the show while we're doing that show, right?
There's a show, that's a show.
So let's talk about why the Halos are good against good teams and then struggle against those mediocre teams. We're going to give you some stats and some ideas and some thoughts tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Yeah, and I'll talk some Griffin Canning too, and we'll recap that Blue Jays game.
Let's do it.
As well. All right, friends, until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
There's a show, that's a show.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing. That's how Mike and I talk about our show.